And they also had that thing
I
where
did like that
Ahsoka
too.
grabbed it and it burned her hand, kind of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, I thought though that they were, somehow there was going to be print on there and there was a map on her hand. And I was like, okay, well, that's practical. It was used before. We could believe in that. But they went the other route, which is like even more interesting by having the space whales take them.
Well, it's hard for me to defend the space whales, but they have been introduced before.
Yes.
Like I was talking to my dad about it because I was like, episode 5 is really good. He's like, but whales that go into hyperspace? I was like, yeah.
I've been talking. Do they jump? Yeah, they jump into hyperspace.
Yeah,
they're whales, they look like whales. They're Purrgils, and they are these interstellar creatures, interdimensional, I guess, creatures that are peaceful and majestic the way they're portrayed, and they can go into hyperspace and travel between galaxies. So, and that's obviously very relevant in this because this show is attempting to move Star Wars into a new galaxy as part of our story universe. And apparently this has ties in mythology to the Jedi. So,
and they even had them in Mandalorian season 3. Grogu sees them in the
that's right.
Yeah, while they're in hyperspeed, he can see them outside, and he kind of like goes, "Oh," That's
right.
It makes like a Google sound. Yeah, and so right. I think they were like slowly telling us that this was going to happen. But look, was it episode 3 where we had Ahsoka go outside into space and then float into the air and slice?
I was
lightsaber cartwheel.
We're no longer dealing with the same rules anymore, so I have to let it go because it's just too crazy at this point.
I was negative on that scene. We never got to talk about that, but going back to that one, I was one of the people, like when I was watching that, I was like, how fast did she get that spacesuit on? And then why don't they just stop their fighters and blow that ship up?
Exactly.
Like, fly by it. It made no sense.
Yeah,
it made no sense.
absolutely.
Just look at it from a distance and behind, just don't go
because
near
the
lightsaber.
The ship was actually like dead in space. It wasn't moving anywhere. So it was actually a still ship that they could have blown up easily.
Yeah. In gun terminology, that's called a sitting duck.
Right. They were doing the World War II with the fighters, and it's like, but they don't have to keep moving, which would have been a new thing to kind of show, probably.
It would have been cool to see her deflecting lasers. I got a kick out of it, and it makes sense, but it still made me laugh that her spacesuit had the sleeves for the extra sleeves for her head gear.
Yeah. And then I think I would have loved, even if it was like a rocket, on the back, I was like, okay, it's a rocket, but she's just sort of floating in the middle of space, and there's a lot. I think that they really, I don't really like that very much, but I thought it was funny. I had a ball with the schlock. I enjoyed it. I did. It's schlock, I call it. So
yeah. One of the things, and I hate admitting this because they're called member berries, but I did like seeing Home One, the ship from Return of the Jedi, the giant Mon Calamari cruiser. That showed up in episode 4, and they call it Home One in dialogue, and they showed it a couple times. So it was cool to see it. Again, member berries alone aren't going to do it. If you're going to use something you can use something familiar.
Yeah.
So just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's a member berry unless it has no other connection to the plot. So, and this kind of falls into that. We don't necessarily have to have that, but they did have it in episode 4. Thought it was cool to see, but that's where we have Hera again, Heath, where again, she doesn't act like a general to me. I'm sorry, but a general is a military commander, which means you are in charge of millions of lives who have to follow your orders. And she treats it like like she got a VIP pass backstage at a concert. She's like, woo, I can get past here.
What's the point of being a general if you can't do something
she
once
always
again?
makes comments like, it's fun being a general and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I have never heard Douglas MacArthur sound like that in an interview or, actual generals just don't get a kick out of it. It's a big responsibility that can destroy their career. They can make the wrong choice. You could lose a war for your culture that leads into the destruction of or bombing of your culture. Like, it's not fun to be a general, I don't think. And she treats it like it's kind of fun and silly and not really to be taken seriously. And she's awfully young, I think, also to be, or she looks young anyway, to be a general.
And the other piece was, one of the things that I said that was about episode 4 was that, she's got her kid right there with her right in the middle of a battle or a possible battle. Like, this is a very scary situation. They could be, coming up against Thrawn, and there's her son right there. I was very surprised by that. I was happy that he eventually made himself useful in the story, that he wasn't just a member berry, because I was like, why is he here? He's got to be just for the member berries.
Jason.
But Jason Syndulla, and I was really glad that they used him, but I don't think he should be there. I think it was clever to use him, but still, it's inappropriate for a child to be out in the middle of warfare, basically.
Well, I mean,
Star Trek: The Next Generation approach to this.
Exactly.
We take our whole family along with us.
Well, but I mean, my kid playing in the street is cause for alarm if a car is within a mile. Or so. I do a lot of driving through residential neighborhoods for my date, my real job. And if I'm going too fast on a residential road, the moms out there will let me know. Slow down, So, like, I don't know. It does seem pretty flippant to be like, we're going into a war zone. It's cool. Just wear your backpack, put on your raincoat. You'll be fine. It does seem pretty casual.
I think so. Yeah. I didn't quite understand that, especially since she knows what war is. She's already lost someone in a war.
Right.
There is a lot to be to ask about these characters, like, why are these characters not acting like they are real characters? They don't act like they exist in a real space, and so it's hard for me to care about them.
Totally. Again, from a writing standpoint, when you're writing a scene, usually you get a critique. You don't just write it and it's done. Like, it goes through many drafts, and those drafts have feedback from other writers. And they will let you know. They're like, she said this right here. I don't know why she said that. And I'll think about it. I'm like, yeah, maybe you're right. That's not. And you take it out. You could just tell none of this process has gone on with their script writing over there at Lucasfilm, because just the smallest level of scrutiny would have cleaned up this dialogue, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm not sold on Hera. I'm not sold on Sabine. Jason did get interesting in episode 5, and we can get to that a little bit.
Yeah.